Sup everyone. So I'm gonna double these up because they're gonna be short and sweet. I caught a couple of horror movies this weekend and I just wanted to give you guys my thoughts on that. So let's get into it with The Dare and The Platform. Let's start off with The Dare. Directed by Giles Anderson and starring Bart Edwards, Richard Beale, and Alexandra Evans. The Dare it tells the story of a man who wakes up in a basement with a couple other people and they're all chained to the walls after being abducted from his family, and they have to piece together what's happening and why it's happening and hopefully make it out alive. The Dare. This is a smaller budget horror movie, but it's actually really well shot, and most of it takes place in one room. What elevates this movie for me is the acting. Usually, films like this, you don't really get actors of certain caliber, but these people, everybody involved, and I do mean everybody, is really bringing their A game here. What I liked about this movie for me, it felt like it was a throwback to old 80s horror films. Um, in the sense that there's something that happens. I don't want to get into it. I'm sure there are a lot of people who haven't seen it. There's some flashback scenes, and what is happening affects directly, of course, what's happening in the present. And it reminded me of Silent Night Deadly Night. If you've seen that movie, you might see what I'm talking about, where past emotional traumas have definitely created what's happening right now, what's happening to these people right now. And I dug that. I actually like that a lot, and it's not something you really see in a horror film. You usually just have the killer, especially a slasher film or whatever. You have the killer. There's not a lot of reason into why they are the way they are. It doesn't really go that in depth. Maybe somebody had something, a family member die in a horrific way or whatever, and they're seeking revenge. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it was pretty cool to go a little further with it, and that's what they did here. And it makes you see the antagonist in a completely different way. At least I did. There's some really gory stuff here. Yes, there's a lot of CG as well, unfortunately, but there's a lot of practical stuff too, and it works. It works really well. Like I said, the acting is what sells this. Everybody is bringing their A game, and of course, everybody being chained to the wall and having to do the dares to each other, so to speak. Is very reminiscent of Saw, which immediately had me like, okay, what did these people do to deserve being here? Obviously, there's a lot going on. I think this film is solid for the most part. And then the very end of this movie, there's an ending that almost feels tacked on, almost feels like what they did to poor Wes Craven with the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, when they made him tack on that ending that is just, it almost spoils everything that comes before. Thank God there's so much fantastic stuff before that. This ending is completely unnecessary. The movie did not have to go a step beyond. It reminded me of, is it that movie, the remake of The Last House on the Left? I think they do the same thing. You kind of are with the parents and you're sympathetic to what's happening to them and why they're seeking revenge for their girl, for their daughter. And then they have this tacked on ending that turns the dad into a complete psycho. All the sympathy just gets thrown out the window. I feel like that's what happens here. The ending was completely unnecessary. All that said, this is a fun movie and I definitely recommend streaming it. So I'm giving The Dare a 6 out of 10. And that brings me to The Platform. The Platform is directed by, and forgive my pronunciation, Galda Gasto Urita, and stars Ivan Masage. I'm really slaughtering his name. I'm very sorry. And it's a story of basically a vertical prison where there are two prisoners per cell, and a platform drops daily, bringing food all the way down to the prisoners. And of course, the lower you go, the less food there is, and it's a nightmare. This movie, well, of course, this is on Netflix now, so it's probably available to everyone who has a Netflix account or who is borrowing a friend's Netflix account. This one, I absolutely love this movie. It starts off, the idea behind it is very interesting. You have a prison, you have two people per cell. The cell is very spare of anything in it except maybe I think a couple beds and a sink, that sort of thing. And there's this platform dropping, and depending on the level you are, the platform is filled with food, you know, or I mean top of the line food we're talking here, guys. But of course, the lower it goes, the less food there is. So if you're on a very low level, like you're 200 or 100, you're basically screwed, you know. And the movie takes a very deep, dark look at what society is, because I mean, it's pretty clear the platform is the world and the world's resources. You have the tiers being the socioeconomic tiers of the people of this world, and the administration, the people in charge of everything, the government, you know. And this movie, it's just about exploring it's so many things actually, but you know, you have this one character and he's there and he's an idealist, and he comes in, I don't want to, okay, I was just about to spoil something, but I won't spoil it. But he comes into this situation very much optimistic that things can be better, that we don't have to be as greedy as we are, that if everybody shares, everybody will get something to eat. And it's very easy to be an idealist when you are not in the actual situation. It's very easy for us to say, well, this is how the world should be, and this is how everything could be if everybody did something, something, something. But when you are the person in that situation, when you are the person at the bottom, how easy it is to hold on to your principles. How easy could it be to not go into that animal mode, that survivalist mode, and do the most horrific things to survive? You know, it's very easy to judge when you're up here, not so much when you're down here. And I love that. I love that this movie did this. And I also love the ending of this film, because the ending is one of those open endings that leaves you, the viewer, with the opportunity to decide how this movie ended in your mind, how this story ended, I should say. The actor here, I'm not familiar with the actor. I did not research what country this was from, so I'm thinking Netherlands or somewhere about there. But they really did wonderful jobs, everybody involved. If you had to dislike somebody, you really hated them. If you had to, you know, be sympathetic with someone, sympathize with someone, you sympathize with them. It was the actors becoming the characters, and I think it's easier for me to accept them for the characters they're playing because I'm not familiar with the actors. You know, you tend to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine no matter what he's in, and it's really hard to disconnect. So it was much easier for me to accept these people in their roles because I'm not familiar with the actors, you know. But that said, they all did wonderful jobs, and this movie is not an easy watch. It's very horrific to see people at their absolute worst and what you would do to survive, but it definitely has a message, and a strong one. So I'm giving the platform an 8 out of 10. I think it's definitely worth watching if you're looking for something to watch on Netflix and possibly been binge watching everything else and you haven't touched this one. I definitely recommend it. Check it out. So I hope you enjoyed this double review, and if you've seen these movies, let me know what you thought of them. Please feel free to hit that like button. It's really appreciated. You want to subscribe to my channel, you can click on my face right over there. And of course, you can check out past films. You know where. So be safe, and until next time, guys. Bye-bye.